Well, good morning, my friends. Boy, there are a lot of you here this morning, from very, very small to not so very small to very, very tall. This is good. I wasn't looking specifically at you for very, very tall. I would never look at me for very, very tall. Well, this is a little warmer here than it would be if we were outside around the campfire this morning, wouldn't it? I wouldn't particularly want to get out of bed to go outside for a campfire this morning. That would be just cold. But it is certainly the time of year when we like to get warm and snuggly and tell each other a good story or two. Well, I brought some stories with me this morning, especially stories that are good to tell each other when there's a campfire. So, some of these stories are just good stories. Some of them might be a little bit on the spooky side. We'll try not to be too terrifying. But now this first story has a little bit of peril in it. There are some frightening things that will happen, but I will promise you now that it will turn out all right in the end, okay? So when it gets scary, you can go, it's going to be all right. Now, the first thing I have to ask you is, do any of you have pets? Who has pets? Ah, good. Who has a dog? Anybody have a dog? Oh, there's a few dogs out there. Who has a cat? Anybody have a cat? Oh, good. Who has a dog and a cat? You guys do? Oh, very good. Does anybody have a fish? Kind of. Does anybody have a lizard? Oh, do you have a... What about a bird? Any birds around? Backyard chickens count. Well, I happen to have two cats at home. There's Sierra, who has remarkably short legs and is kind of round and fat. So she waddles around the house like this. And then we have the gray and white great big boy kitten called Stormageddon Dark Lord of All. We like Doctor Who. But that's neither here nor there, because the family that I want to tell you about today, they have a very unique pet. They have a pet squirrel. Now, I know that squirrels wouldn't really make good pets, but come on, you know you'd like to have a pet squirrel. With their big fluffy tails and their cute little faces. I did have neighbors once who, there was a squirrel in their yard that if you sat on steps very quietly with peanuts in your hand, the squirrel would come and eat them. But this squirrel wasn't just one that would come and eat peanuts. This squirrel lived with the family. He would sit right up at the table at dinner time and eat dinner with him and go cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. Just like that. Now this family, which was a grandma, a grandpa, a little boy, and a little girl, their favorite thing to eat in the whole wide world was biscuits. What? They had biscuits all the time. I love biscuits, especially with nice sausage gravy. Or some fresh rhubarb jelly. Now, one afternoon, Grandma was getting ready to make some biscuits. And she got out the flour, and she got down the salt, and she got some butter, and she reached up for the baking soda. Because you have to have baking soda in order to make your biscuits fluffy. It's what makes them rise. But do you know what Grandma found when she got the baking soda? It was all gone. There was no soda at all. Now, in the old days, we didn't call it baking soda. We called it soda of saleratus. Or, as Grandma put it, sody saleratus. Now, Grandma, she looked right at the little boy and she says, "Oh, little boy, I'm out of soda. You're going to have to go to the store and get me some soda." So the little boy headed out the front door, and he went skipping down the road. As he went skipping down the road, he wanted to remember what he was shopping for. So as he went skipping along, he was going, Sody, 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 Sally, rate us. I bet you could help me remember that, because that's kind of hard for me to remember. Do you think you could sing that with me real quick? Here we go. It goes, Sody, 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 Sally, rate us. That's pretty easy, isn't it? Well, the little boy went to the store and he got his sody. And the little fellow was skipping on home going, Sody, 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 Sally, rate us. Until he came to the bridge. And as he skipped out on the bridge, all of a sudden, up from under the bridge, there came a big brown bear. And he says, I'll eat your sody, Sally Ratus, and I'll eat you too. And he swallowed the little boy right up. My gosh, they just ate a child in this story. What kind of library are you running here? You can't go around eating little boys. Well, back at home, Grandma was getting kind of wondering what was happening with this little boy. She looked at the little girl. She says, little girl, your brother must be off playing with somebody and gotten distracted. You're going to have to go and see if you can find him. So, his sister headed out. She had on her little skirt and her little pigtails. And she went skipping down the road. And as she went skipping down the road, she was singing. Can you help me out? Here we go. She was going, Sody, 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 Sally, rate us. She come into the store. She says, excuse me, mister. Have you seen my brother? He come in to get some sody. Yes, little girl. I saw him. He went that way. Thank you, sir. I don't make a very good little girl. But off she went skipping down the road. But as she came skipping over the bridge, all of a sudden, up from under the bridge, there came a big brown bear. And he said, I ate the little boy and the sody Sally Ratus, and I'll eat you too. And he swallowed her up in one bite. Well, it's bad enough eating little boys, but little girls, that's even worse. But that bear was getting kind of big, and as he waddled off, he kind of waddled like this. Back at home, Grandma was getting thoroughly disgusted. She looked at Grandpa and she says, Grandpa, those children must be off playing with somebody. You're going to have to go to town and see if you could find them. Now, poor Grandpa was old. In fact, Grandpa was so old, he wasn't just one cane old. Grandpa was 2 canes old. So he headed out the house and he was shuffling off down the road. You can help me out. Here we go. He was singing, Sody, 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 Sally, rate us. He come into the store and he said, excuse me, did you see a little boy and a little girl come through looking for some sody? Yes, old fellow. They both were here. They went that way. Thank you. Well, as he went a-shuffling along over the bridge, all of a sudden, up from under the bridge, what? You could say it along with me. Are you ready? Here we go. There came a big brown bear. And he says, I ate the little boy and the little girl and the sody Sally Ratus, and I'll eat you too. Paw. Spit the canes right out. Goodness me. Well, back at home, Grandma was absolutely beside herself. She said, oh, for heaven's sakes, if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. So she put on her bonnet, and she got her purse, and she went to hunching off toward town going, Here we go, are you ready? She sang, Sody, 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 Saleratus. And she come into the store and she says, excuse me, have you seen a little boy and a little girl and an old man? They all come to get some sody. Yes, for heaven's sakes, they've all been here. They went that way. Thank you. Well, Off she went hunchety-hunching along, but as she went hunchety-hunching across the bridge, all of a sudden, up from under the bridge, there came a big brown bear. And he says, "Arr, I ate the little boy and the little girl and the old man and the sody Sally Radius, and I'll eat you too." And he swallowed Grandma right up. Well, and now there was nobody left at home, except for the squirrel. And let me tell you, the squirrel was getting downright hungry. He wanted his biscuits. He was sitting right there at the table going, ha ta 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 ta, ha! He jumped off the table, he ran out the front door, and he went scampering down the road. Are you ready? Here we go. He was going, ta 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 ta. He scampered into the store and jumped up on the counter, and he looks at the man and he says, ta 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 ta. Yes, for heaven's sakes, they've all been here. They went that way. Ta 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 ta. That squirrel went scampering down the road. But as he went scampering over the bridge, all of a sudden, up from under the bridge, there came a big brown bear. And he says, "Arr, I ate the little boy and the little girl and the old man and the old lady and the sody Sally Radius, and I'll eat you too." And the squirrel went, "Ah! Ah-cha, 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 ah!" And he climbed right to the top of a tree. The bear looked up at him and he said, "Aha! If you can do that with your little legs, I can do that with my big ones." Ha! 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 The squirrel went, "Ha! Hee! Hoo! Ha!" And he scampered out onto a branch. And the bear said, "Aha! If you can do that with your little legs, I can do that with my big ones." Ha! 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 And the squirrel went, "Ha! Hee! Hoo! Ha!" And he jumped over to the next tree. And the bear, he said, "Ah, if you can do that with your little legs, I can do that with my big ones." Ha! And the bear went, "Ooh!" Splat! Just like that. And when the bear hit the ground, he burst wide open because he had eaten way too much. And out came Grandma and Grandpa and the little girl and the little boy with his bag of sody Sally Radius. And they all hurried home just as fast as they could go. And as soon as they got home, Grandma mixed up the biscuits and she got them in the oven. And when they were done, she pulled out the biscuits and she broke off a piece and blew on it. And she gave it straight to the squirrel. And the squirrel did not stop until he had eaten 6 whole biscuits. And that is the story of the sody Sally Radius. There you go. Now that's a very, very easy story to tell. Anybody can do that story because, why, there's a little boy, a little girl, an old man, an old lady, a squirrel, and a bear. Why, you could probably take that story home and tell it to somebody else today. That's an easy one. Now let me see here. I wrote things down so I'd remember what I was going to say. Oh, yes. Woo! Now, you know, this is the time of year when it gets dark early, right? And it gets colder, so we like a nice fire. And we like warm, comfy clothes. But in spite of that, sometimes the wind blows, doesn't it? Now, I would love a little bit more windy atmosphere. Could you guys help me by making the wind blow a little bit? Sometimes it howls a little, doesn't it? The wind's blowing really hard now. What would it sound like? Whew! It's cold in here, too. That was very good wind. That made me kind of scared, I gotta say. Now, all of us have different things that we think about in life. People tell you you shouldn't walk under a ladder because that's bad luck, right? Or, boy, don't break a mirror or you'll have 7 years of bad luck. Or watch out if a black cat walks in front of your path, because that means bad luck. Now, way, way back in the hills, somewhere over in Benton County, there was an old lady. And this old lady was one of those folks that never cared 2 pins for what people thought, which is often a very good way to be. But let me tell you, folks all the way down her family had handed down a certain particular truth. And that particular truth was that if you've got gourds outside, squash that's ready to pick, make sure you don't never pick a green gourd. Nobody ever told her why you shouldn't pick a green gourd. They just always said, don't pick a green gourd. They never bothered to explain what might happen if you did. Well, this little old lady, one afternoon in the fall, she was heading out toward the well to get some water. And she had a gourd that she had hollowed out to use as a dipper for her water. Well, she was just getting some water when, do you know what happened? She tripped and she fell, and do you know what happened to her gourd? It broke. Right then and there, the whole thing smashed up. Well, that little old lady, she was disgusted. She said, oh, for heaven's sakes, now I got to make me a new gourd for drinking water with. She walked over to her gourd vine, and there was one gourd on it. And let me tell you, that gourd was still green. And she thought back to all the things that her mother and her aunts and her grandma and her great-grandma and her great-aunts had told her. They had all said, don't you never pick a green gourd. Bad things will happen. But she was one of those little old ladies who didn't care much about what people said. So do you know what she did? She walked right over and she picked it. She picked that green gourd. She took it back to the house. Right inside her house, she took that green gourd. She set it down by the fireplace to dry out for a while. And she sat down to do a little bit of knitting. And while she was sitting there in her rocking chair, all of a sudden, that green gourd went, bah. And she went, it stopped moving and she went back to her knitting. A moment later, that green gourd went, bah, boom. All of a sudden, that green gourd was down off the shelf. It went running around the room. It was bouncing off of things. It knocked the pictures off the wall. It knocked the plates out of the cupboard. It broke her coffee cup. And then it came straight over toward the little old lady, and it whapped her right on the backside. And she went, oh! She ran around the living room, and that green gourd chased right after her. Every time it caught up to her, it whapped her on the backside and went, oh, oh! She opened the front door, and she went running out the front door. She shut the front door behind her. And as she was going down the front walk, she heard, bam! Bam! Boom! That green gourd broke right through the front door. And here it was, bouncing down the road behind her, and she's running along like this, and every so often it would catch up to her and whack her on the backside, and she went, whoo! As she was running along, Mr. Groundhog was outside of his house. Mr. Groundhog saw her coming, and he says, "Shay, woman, what's the matter with you?" And she says, "Oh, there's this green gourd that I picked. It's after me. It's going to whack me." He said, "Well, sister, come inside here and you can hide and I'll whack it." So the little old lady went inside a groundhog's house. And Groundhog shut the door, and down the road come that green gourd, bouncing and bumping. It came right up to Mr. Groundhog, and you know it went, whap! Woo! And bapped him right on the backside. Sent him rolling head over heels. It bapped its way right through the front door, whirled around Groundhog's house, found the little old lady, and boom! Oh! Oh! Off she went running down the road again. She's running along. Oh! 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 She come along. Mr. Fox was sitting outside his house. And Mr. Fox says, little old lady, what the world is the matter with you? She says, oh, there's a green gourd I done picked. It's after me. It's trying to bop me. Fox said, well, you go inside my house and hide. I'll bop it. So the little old lady went inside of Fox's house. And sure enough, down the road comes that green gourd bouncing and bunking along. Fox got right up with his little fox paws, and he went, huh, 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 huh. And the green gourd went, pop, oh! Knocked that old fox over in backward somersaults, it did. The green gourd bopped right through the front door, found the little old lady hiding behind the couch, and went, bop, oh! Woo! Woo! She went running and running down the road until she came out in front of Mr. Bear's house. Mr. Bear says, say, woman, what's the matter with you? Oh, Bear, oh, there's this green gourd I done picked. It's following me. It's out to bop me and bap me and smap me and whap me. And the bear said, you go inside. I'll take care of this. And that green gourd come rolling and bunking and bapping its way down the road. It saw a bear, and it sped right up, and it bopped and bapped and whapped straight toward him, ready to whack him right on the backside as hard as it could. And as it come up toward Bear, Bear went, splat! And he sat down on the green gourd, and he smashed it flat. And the woman was so grateful, she gave Bear all the honey she had in her beehives that fall. And the little old lady learned from that day forward that she ought never, ever to pick a green gourd. And that is the green gourd. Whew! Now let's see here. Oh, I have a friend named Kent. And Kent and his little girls. And they are little. Well, they were. They love a good scary movie, a scary story, a haunted house. I'm a big chicken. If I go to a haunted house, I get my money's worth, let me tell you. Because I will scream the whole time. This is how I would go through a haunted house. Gripping my wife's hand like I was about to die, my eyes closed and going, ah! That's me in scary. I don't do scary very well. Now, my friend's little girl, she told us a story once. And it is a tale of horrible fearsomeness. Once upon a time, there was an old hotel. It was an old inn along the road. Stagecoaches would roll up with their horses. This was one of those old inns where there always seemed to be a thunderstorm happening. In fact, maybe we can make a thunderstorm right now. Can you guys, right over here, could I get you to rub your hands together like this? Keep rubbing those hands. Could you over here make the wind blow for me? While you're rubbing your hands. There's the wind blowing. There's a little bit of rain starting. Now let's see, hand rubbers And you over here, the rain's going to get a little harder. Start snapping your fingers. And the wind's blowing. And, oh, maybe you over here could make the thunder roll. Can you give me a good boom? Boom! Oh, and the rain's getting harder as the wind blows and the thunder booms. Now the rain's going to get harder. We're going to slap our legs like this. And the thunder rolls. And the wind blew its loudest. Oh, what a rainstorm. This is certainly a night for ghosts, isn't it? Yeah. And gradually it all got quiet. Well, a couple of cowboys came into this inn, and they said, "Innkeep, we've been out riding the range for several days. Our little dogies is wore out. We need a room for the night." The innkeeper said, "I'm sorry, fellas. All of my rooms are full except for one, and you don't want to stay there." The cowboy said, "Why not?" "Because that room is haunted by a terrible ghost." And the cowboy said, "Why, we're brave cowboys. We ride the range every day. We ain't afeard of no ghost. We'll take the room." So the cowboys headed up. They settled into the bed. They was laying down. They were just starting to snore. Shall we all snore together? Here we go. Suddenly the cowboys sat up. One looked at the other and said, "Did you hear something?" And the other cowboy, he said, "Maybe." And suddenly, from under the bed, they heard, "I'm the ghost with one black eye. I'm the ghost with one black eye." The cowboys started to shake there in the bed. They were thankful they'd left their boots on, let me tell you. As the voice got louder and louder, "I'm the ghost with one black eye." The cowboys jumped up. They ran out of that room as fast as they could. They jumped on their horses and they rode away. Well, many years passed. A Model T pulled up outside the inn. And a couple of policemen got out. They said, "We've been chasing criminals and running around the countryside and we're tired. We need a room." And the innkeeper said, "I'm sorry, all my rooms are full but one. And you don't want that room." "Why not?" "Because it's haunted. There's a terrible ghost there. Nobody ever spends the night in that room." And the cops, they said, "We're not afraid of nothing. We're the police. We'll arrest that ghost and put it in jail." So they got into bed. They laid down. They started to snore. What was that? I could have sworn I heard something. They looked at each other, barely able to see each other in the dark. But from over in one corner of the room, they heard, "I'm the ghost with one black eye. I'm the ghost with one black eye." The cops got scared. They pulled out their guns and looked around. "I'm the ghost with one black eye." And they ran out of that room as fast as they could go. Well, that room stayed empty for many, many, many years. But finally, there was a family. They were out on vacation, and they didn't have a GPS with them. And Dad hadn't really looked at the map very well, and he didn't want to ask for directions. So it was late at night, and they were lost, And the children were all cranky. They were saying, "Are we there yet?" In fact, can we all say that together in our whiniest voice? Here we go. "Are we there yet?" And Dad said, "No, we're not. Be quiet." And they pulled up out front of this inn. And they all piled into the inn. And Mama, she says, "Please, we got to get some rest. Can we have a room?" And the innkeeper said, "I'm sorry, there's only one room left, and you don't want it." "Why not?" "Because it's haunted. There's a terrible, awful ghost there." Mama, she looked right at him and she said, "Look, mister, I've been riding in the car for 12 hours with 4 little children. I'm ready for bed. I don't care if there's a ghost there or not." So they headed up. They all got settled in. They laid down and they all went to sleep and started to snore. What was that? What? Daddy was up in a moment. And sure enough, there was the voice. "I'm the ghost with one black eye." Daddy put his head under the blankets. He was scared to death. "I'm the ghost with one black eye." Mama put her head under the blanket. She was scared to death. "I'm the ghost with one black eye." 3 of the children put their heads under the blankets because they were scared to death. "I'm the ghost with one black eye." And the little girl, who was 4, she stood up on the bed and she said, "Well, if you don't be quiet and let us get some sleep, you'll be the ghost with 2 black eyes." The end. I love that story. And it's the kind of story anybody can tell. There's not much to remember, is there? You can make up whoever stays in the room until you get to the last person who says, "You'll be the ghost with 2 black eyes if you're not careful." Well, let's see. Do I have anything left on my list? Or have I talked through everything? I think... Oh! I have one last very short story, if you don't mind. Now, this story is about a family that moved to a new house. Now, the house wasn't new. It wasn't just made, but it was new to them. In fact, the house itself was very, very old. You know, like some of the houses they have here in Iowa City that are big, and they've got lots of towers, balconies, and thunderstorms and lightning around them. And way up at the very top of the house was the bedroom of a little brother and sister. And they were just unpacking their things. And they opened up the closet. And do you know what? Taped to the wall of the closet was a note. The note said, "Beware! Do not go through the secret door in the closet. And whatever you do, don't touch the purple fuzzball." Did they listen? No, they were little kids. They were curious. There was a secret passage. They pushed the button and the back of the closet opened up. And there was a stairway. And they followed this stairway down, 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 way past the basement of the house, until they came to a wooden door. Nailed to that door was a note. The note said, "What have you done? Why did you come through the secret passage? Don't go through this door. And whatever you do, don't touch the purple fuzzball." Did they listen? No, of course not, because it was cool. They pushed open that great big door. It opened up into a tunnel. It was long. There were torches glaring along the sides. There was water and slimy stuff dripping from the ceiling. And the floor was slippery and sloppy with slime. But they slipped and slid and stumbled their way down the tunnel till they came to a great big iron gate. Tied to the bars of the gate was a note. No! Why have you come? Do not go through the gate. And whatever you do, all together, don't touch the purple fuzzball. Did they listen? No! Oh, the poor children. They pushed open that rusty iron gate. They came out into a vast cave. The ceiling was so high up it was lost in the dark. There was one shaft of light shining down the center, right onto a white pillar. On the pillar was a pillow. Over the pillow was a glass dome. They walked up to the glass dome. And there on the middle of the pillow, no bigger than your pinky fingernail, was a purple fuzzball. They looked at each other. They lifted the lid. And one of them picked it up. That's it? That's it? Oh, for heaven's sakes. And he tossed it. The moment it hit the ground, the cave went, and the fuzzball went, poof. Suddenly it was much bigger, and it began to roll right toward the children. The children went, ah! And they went running out of the cave. They slammed the big iron gate shut, and they went slipping and sliding and stumbling down the slimy tunnel, and they heard boom, boom, crash as it broke through the gate. And they went running down until they came to the big wooden door, and they slammed the big wooden door shut, and they began running up the stairs, and they heard boom, boom, crunch. And they knew a giant fuzzball had just come through that wooden door and was coming up the stairs toward them. They burst out into their bedroom and went running down the stairs of the house and out the front door. Moments afterward, a 10-foot-tall fuzzball exploded out the front wall of the house. They went running down the road going, ah, help! It was 12 feet tall, 14 feet tall. It reached out, it grabbed them, and it said, tag, you're it. That's all. Friends, thank you very much for coming and spending some time with me this morning. Make sure that you tell the small people in your life your stories. Tell them about the stupid things you did when you were their age. Even if you don't think your story is very important, it is, and you should tell it. And of course, spend lots of time here at the library pestering your librarians to find exactly the right books for you. Thank you very much.